As you take your first breath this morning, a startling realization settles in. Nothing will ever be the same. The air feels heavier, as if the world itself is holding its breath, waiting for you to notice something you've always missed. You sit up, the sheets tangled around your legs, and for a moment, the silence in your room is so complete it's almost deafening. There's a strange clarity in the way the light falls across the floor, illuminating the dust motes that dance in the golden rays. You sense it, a shift, subtle but seismic, as if the universe has quietly rearranged itself while you slept. You reach for your phone, almost by instinct, but hesitate. Today, the familiar urge to check notifications, to scroll through curated lives and pixel-perfect images, feels different, hollow, even. You wonder, what if every flawless photo, every meticulously crafted post, every filtered smile, is not a window into someone else's happiness, but a mirror reflecting your own silent desperation? What if the pursuit of perfection, the endless striving to be more, do more, have more, is not a ladder to fulfillment, but a spiral staircase leading nowhere? Imagine waking up one day and realizing that every standard you've ever measured yourself against was invisible, intangible, a ghostly yardstick that recedes the closer you get. You remember the first time you felt it, the sting of a teacher's red pen, the ache of not being chosen, the quiet shame of falling short. It was subtle at first, a whisper in the back of your mind, you could be better. Over time, it grew louder, morphing into a relentless drumbeat that underscored every decision, every relationship, every fleeting moment of joy. You learned to chase the horizon, to run faster, to climb higher, to never stop moving, because stopping meant facing the terrifying possibility that you might never be enough. But what does enough even mean? Is it a number on a scale, a title on a business card, the approval of a parent, the admiration of strangers? Or is it something more elusive, a feeling that slips through your fingers the moment you think you've grasped it? You find yourself haunted by questions that have no easy answers. Why does the promise of perfection seduce you, even as it destroys your peace? Why do you return, again and again, to the altar of self-improvement, offering up your time, your energy, your very sense of self, in exchange for a fleeting sense of worth? You picture yourself standing at the edge of a new reality, the truth dawning on you all at once. The world you inhabit is built on a paradox. You are told to be authentic, to be yourself, but only if that self is polished, optimized, and marketable. You are encouraged to embrace your flaws, but only if they are the right kind of flaws, quirky, endearing, easily packaged for consumption. You are promised happiness, but only if you are willing to pay the price: endless striving, relentless comparison, perpetual dissatisfaction. Suddenly, you're faced with a moment that makes you question everything you thought you knew. What if the very thing you've been chasing is the source of your suffering? What if the pursuit of perfection is not a noble quest, but a trap, a beautifully constructed cage with invisible bars? You feel the weight of this realization pressing down on you, heavy and inescapable. It's as if you've been running a race with no finish line, your feet pounding against the pavement, your lungs burning, your heart aching with the effort. And yet, no matter how fast you run, the goal always moves just out of reach. You think back to the moments when you felt closest to perfect. The promotion, the compliment, the fleeting high of external validation. Each time, the satisfaction was real, but ephemeral, dissolving like mist in the morning sun. The hunger returned, sharper than before, demanding more. You wonder, is this hunger natural, or is it manufactured? Is it a fundamental part of being human, or is it a symptom of a deeper malaise, a sickness of the soul, cultivated by a culture that profits from your insecurity? As you sit in the quiet of your room, the questions multiply, each one more unsettling than the last. What if the standards you strive for are arbitrary, set by people who do not know you, who do not care about your happiness? What if the images you compare yourself to are illusions, carefully constructed to sell you a dream that can never be realized? What if the voice in your head that tells you to do better is not your own, but an echo of a society that thrives on your self-doubt? You begin to notice the ways perfectionism seeps into every corner of your life. It's there in the way you edit your words before speaking, afraid of saying the wrong thing. It's in the way you dress, the way you eat, the way you love, always holding back, always calculating, always striving to be just a little bit more. It's in the way you judge others, and the way you judge yourself, harshly and without mercy. It's in the way you postpone joy, telling yourself you'll be happy when you lose the weight, when you get the job, when you find the right partner, when you finally become the person you think you're supposed to be. But what if that day never comes? What if the pursuit of perfection is a mirage, a cruel joke played by the universe to keep you running in circles? You feel a chill run down your spine as you contemplate the possibility that you have been living your life according to rules that were never meant to be followed, chasing a prize that does not exist. You look around and see the evidence everywhere. The friend who never feels good enough, no matter how much she achieves. The colleague who hides his anxiety behind a mask of competence. The parent who pushes their child to excel, hoping to heal their own wounds through someone else's success. The stranger on the street scrolling through endless feeds, searching for meaning in a sea of curated perfection. You realize that you are not alone in your struggle, that the pursuit of perfection is a collective obsession, a silent epidemic that infects every aspect of modern life. And yet, despite the pain it causes, you find it almost impossible to let go. There is a strange comfort in the chase, a sense of purpose that fills the void. Perfection promises certainty in an uncertain world, order in the midst of chaos, control in the face of powerlessness. It offers a simple equation. If you can just fix yourself, everything will be okay. If you can just become perfect, you will finally be loved, accepted, safe. But deep down, you know it's a lie. You know that no matter how hard you try, you will never be perfect. You will always fall short, always make mistakes, always carry the scars of your humanity. And yet the fear of imperfection is so great that you keep running, keep striving, keep sacrificing your peace on the altar of an impossible ideal. You begin to wonder what would happen if you stopped. What would happen if you let yourself be imperfect? If you embraced your flaws instead of hiding them? Would the world fall apart, or would it finally come into focus? Would you lose everything, or would you discover something you never knew you had? As you sit with these questions, a new kind of tension arises. Not the anxious, desperate tension of striving, but the electric, creative tension of possibility. You sense that there is another way to live, a way that does not require you to be perfect, a way that honors your humanity instead of denying it. But to find it, you must first confront the truth about the world you inhabit, the forces that shape your desires, the hidden costs of the chase. You realize that the problem with chasing perfection is not just personal. It is existential. It is a question of what it means to be human, to be alive, to be enough. It is a question that has haunted philosophers and poets for centuries, a question that lies at the heart of every great story, every act of creation, every moment of courage. As the morning light grows brighter, you feel the weight of this question settle over you, heavy and inescapable. You know that you cannot turn away, cannot go back to sleep, cannot pretend that everything is as it was. You are awake now, and the world is different. The chase has lost its allure, and in its place is a hunger for something real, something true, something lasting. You stand at the threshold of a new understanding, the first rays of insight breaking through the clouds of illusion. You sense that the journey ahead will not be easy, that it will require you to question everything you thought you knew, to face the darkness within, to risk losing the comfort of certainty for the promise of freedom. But you also sense that it is a journey worth taking, a journey that could change everything. And so, as you take your first step into this new reality, you carry with you a single burning question, a question that will guide you through the darkness, a question that will challenge you, unsettle you, transform you. What if the problem is not that you are imperfect, but that you have been taught to fear imperfection? What if the real prison is not your flaws, but your refusal to accept them? What if the only way to be free is to stop chasing perfection and start embracing the messy, beautiful, terrifying truth of who you really are? The answer, you sense, lies just beyond the horizon, waiting to be discovered. But to find it, you must first understand the hidden forces that keep you running, the psychological and philosophical roots of the chase. Only then can you begin to break free. You linger at the threshold, the question echoing in your mind. What if the real prison is not your flaws, but your refusal to accept them? The air feels charged, as if the world itself is holding its breath, waiting for you to peel back the layers and see what lies beneath the surface of your relentless striving. You sense that the roots of this problem run deeper than you ever imagined, twisting through the soil of your psyche, entangling themselves in the very foundations of your identity. You begin to notice the subtle ways this hidden force shapes your every thought, every feeling, every action. It is not just a personal failing, not just a quirk of your own psychology. It is something older, something woven into the fabric of human existence. You remember the words of Carl Jung, who spoke of the shadow, the parts of ourselves we are taught to reject, to hide, to fear. You realize that your pursuit of perfection is in many ways a desperate attempt to outrun your own shadow, to banish the darkness within by flooding your life with artificial light. But the shadow is patient. It waits in the corners of your mind, whispering doubts, feeding your insecurities, reminding you of every mistake, every flaw, every moment of weakness. You try to silence it with achievements, with praise, with the approval of others, but it only grows stronger in the silence between your victories. You begin to see that the chase for perfection is not a solution, but a symptom, a way of avoiding the uncomfortable truth that you are, and always will be, imperfect. You recall the words of Friedrich Nietzsche, who warned against the dangers of becoming what you are, without first confronting the abyss within. He spoke of the will to power, the drive to transcend your limitations, to impose order on chaos, to create meaning in a world that offers none. But Nietzsche also knew that this drive, unchecked, could become a form of self-destruction, a relentless pursuit of an unattainable ideal that leaves you hollow, exhausted, and alone. You wonder, where did this hunger for perfection come from? Is it a product of your upbringing, the result of critical parents or demanding teachers? Is it a cultural inheritance passed down through generations of people who believed that worth must be earned, that love must be deserved? Or is it something even deeper, a fundamental aspect of the human condition, a reflection of your longing for transcendence, for immortality, for a sense of control in a world that is ultimately uncontrollable? You think of Arthur Schopenhauer, who saw life as a ceaseless striving, a will to live that can never be fully satisfied. For Schopenhauer, suffering was not an aberration, but the very essence of existence. The more you desire, the more you suffer, the more you chase perfection, the more you are tormented by your inability to attain it. You realize that your pain is not a sign of failure, but a sign of your humanity, a testament to the fact that you are alive, that you care, that you are willing to risk disappointment for the sake of something greater. But there is another layer to this problem, one that is harder to see, harder to name. It is the way society conspires to keep you running, to keep you hungry, to keep you dissatisfied. You remember the words of Aldous Huxley, who warned of a world in which people are amused to death, distracted by endless entertainment, numbed by the pursuit of pleasure, pacified by the illusion of progress. You see it in the way perfection is sold to you, through advertisements, through social media, through the endless parade of products and services promising to make you better, faster, stronger, happier. You begin to understand that the chase for perfection is not just a personal struggle, but a collective delusion, a story you have been told and have learned to tell yourself over and over again. It is a story that serves the interests of those in power, those who profit from your insecurity, those who need you to keep buying, keep striving, keep believing that happiness is just one more purchase, one more achievement, one more transformation away. You feel a surge of anger, a sense of betrayal. How many years have you lost to this lie? How many moments of joy have you sacrificed on the altar of not good enough? How many relationships have you damaged? How many opportunities have you missed? How much of your life have you wasted chasing a dream that was never yours to begin with? And yet, even as you rage against the machine, you feel a deeper sadness, a grief for the parts of yourself you have abandoned, the dreams you have deferred, the love you have withheld. You realize that the problem is not just out there in the world, but in here, in your heart. You have internalized the voice of the critic, the judge, the taskmaster. You have become your own oppressor, your own jailer, your own worst enemy. You think of Jean-Paul Sartre, who spoke of bad faith, the tendency to deceive yourself, to deny your own freedom, to hide from the responsibility of creating your own meaning. You see how perfectionism is a form of bad faith, a way of avoiding the terrifying truth that you are free, that you are responsible, that you must choose who you will become. It is easier to chase an impossible ideal than to face the uncertainty of your own existence, the burden of your own choices, the reality of your own limitations. You remember Viktor Frankl, who survived the horrors of the concentration camps and emerged with a profound insight that meaning is not something you find, but something you create. Frankl saw that suffering is inevitable, but that you can choose how to respond to it, that you can find purpose even in the midst of pain. You realize that the pursuit of perfection is in many ways a refusal to accept this truth, a refusal to embrace the messiness of life, the inevitability of suffering, the beauty of imperfection. You begin to see how this hidden force shapes your emotions, your behavior, your very sense of self. It is there in the anxiety that gnaws at you when you fall short, in the shame that floods you when you make a mistake, in the envy that poisons your relationships when others seem to have what you lack. It is there in the way you sabotage your own happiness, setting standards so high that you are doomed to fail, then punishing yourself for not measuring up. You notice how perfectionism distorts your perception, making you blind to your own strengths, your own achievements, your own worth. You see how it turns every success into a stepping stone to the next challenge, every compliment into a reminder of how far you still have to go. You realize that you have been living in a state of perpetual dissatisfaction, always reaching, never arriving, always hungry, never full. You begin to question the very nature of identity. Who are you, if not the sum of your achievements, your failures, your endless striving? Are you a project to be completed, a problem to be solved, a product to be perfected? Or are you something more, a living, breathing, changing being, capable of growth, of love, of joy, of sorrow? You feel the tension building, the sense that something is about to break. You are caught between two worlds, the world of perfection, with its promises of certainty and control, and the world of imperfection, with its risks, its messiness, its unpredictability. You sense that the only way forward is through the darkness, through the pain, through the fear of not being enough. You wonder, what would it mean to accept yourself as you are, to embrace your flaws, to make peace with your limitations? Would it be an act of surrender or an act of courage? Would it mean giving up or finally beginning to live? You realize that the problem with chasing perfection is not just that it is impossible, but that it is dehumanizing. It reduces you to a set of metrics, a collection of flaws to be fixed, a machine to be optimized. It denies the richness of your experience, the complexity of your emotions, the depth of your soul. It turns life into a competition, a zero-sum game, a race to the top of a mountain that does not exist. You feel the weight of history pressing down on you, the voices of philosophers, poets, mystics, and rebels who have all in their own way tried to warn you of this trap. You remember the words of Leonard Cohen, "There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in." You begin to suspect that the very thing you have been running from, your imperfection, is the source of your greatest strength, your deepest wisdom, your most profound connection to others. But you are not there yet. The old habits die hard. The old stories cling to you like a second skin. You know that the journey ahead will be long, that the forces arrayed against you are powerful, that the world will not easily let you go. You sense that there are consequences to this chase, consequences you have not yet fully understood, consequences that shape not only your own life, but the lives of everyone around you. As you stand at the edge of this realization, you feel the tension reach its breaking point. You are ready to see what lies beyond the surface, to confront the unseen consequences of your pursuit, to face the truth that has been hiding in plain sight. The next step is inevitable. You must look deeper, see further, feel more. You must uncover the ways in which the chase for perfection has shaped your reality, distorted your vision, stolen your joy. Only then can you begin to imagine a different way of being, a way that honors your humanity, your vulnerability, your capacity for growth. The journey continues, and the stakes are higher than ever. The unseen consequences await. lurking in the shadows, ready to reveal themselves. Are you ready to face them? You move through your day, but something is different now. The world feels sharper, the colors more vivid, the sounds more piercing. It's as if a veil has been lifted, and you can finally see the hidden machinery that drives your every thought, every action, every fleeting hope. The chase for perfection is no longer an abstract idea, no longer a distant philosophical debate. It is a living force pulsing beneath the surface of your life, shaping your reality in ways you never dared to imagine. You begin to notice the cracks in the facade. The friend who always seems exhausted, her smile brittle at the edges, her laughter just a little too forced. The colleague who stays late every night, chasing an ever-shifting standard of excellence, his eyes hollow with fatigue. The child who hesitates before speaking, searching your face for approval, terrified of making a mistake. You see yourself reflected in all of them. 1,000 tiny compromises, 1,000 silent sacrifices, all in service of an ideal that can never be reached. You start to see how perfectionism is not just a private torment, but a public epidemic. It is the silent architect of anxiety, the invisible hand behind depression, the quiet engine of burnout. It is the reason you wake up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, mind racing, replaying every conversation, every decision, every perceived failure. It is the reason you struggle to rest, to play, to simply be. The chase never ends, and the cost is measured in sleepless nights, strained relationships, and a life half-lived. You realize that perfectionism is a master of disguise. It wears many masks: ambition, discipline, high standards, self-improvement. It whispers that you are only trying to be your best, that you are only doing what is necessary to succeed. But beneath the surface, it is a parasite, feeding on your insecurities, growing stronger with every self-criticism, every moment of doubt. It convinces you that your worth is conditional, that love must be earned, that happiness is always just out of reach. You begin to understand the cognitive biases that keep you trapped. Confirmation bias makes you see only your flaws, filtering out your strengths, your victories, your moments of grace. The spotlight effect convinces you that everyone is watching, judging, waiting for you to slip. The imposter syndrome whispers that you are a fraud, that your successes are accidents, that you are always one mistake away from being exposed. These biases are not just quirks of the mind, they are the bars of your cage, the chains that keep you running in circles. You see how your brain, wired for survival, has become your own worst enemy. The amygdala, that ancient sentinel, scans for threats, real or imagined, flooding your body with adrenaline at the slightest hint of failure. The prefrontal cortex, seat of reason and planning, becomes a tyrant, setting impossible goals, demanding constant improvement, never satisfied with what you have achieved. Your nervous system, designed to protect you from danger, now keeps you in a state of perpetual alert, unable to relax, unable to let go. You notice how cultural conditioning amplifies these tendencies, turning personal struggles into collective obsessions. From an early age, you are taught to compete, to compare, to measure your worth against others. Grades, trophies, likes, followers, each one a data point in the endless calculus of value. You learn that mistakes are shameful, that vulnerability is weakness, that failure is unacceptable. You internalize the message that you are only as good as your latest achievement, your latest performance, your latest mask. You see how this conditioning shapes your relationships, turning love into a transaction, friendship into a competition, community into a marketplace. You hesitate to show your true self, afraid of rejection, afraid of being seen as less than perfect. You hide your struggles, your fears, your pain, convinced that you are the only one who feels this way. You keep your distance, even from those you love most, building walls of silence and shame. You begin to feel the urgency of escape. The cost of perfectionism is not just personal, it is existential. It robs you of your humanity, your creativity, your capacity for joy. It turns life into a series of checklists, a parade of accomplishments, a never-ending audition for a role you never wanted. It makes you a stranger to yourself, alienated from your own desires, your own needs, your own truth. You see how perfectionism infects entire societies, shaping the way people work, the way they learn, the way they dream. It is there in the relentless pace of modern life, the cult of productivity, the fetishization of busyness. It is there in the way people treat their bodies, their minds, their souls, as projects to be optimized, as machines to be fine-tuned, as commodities to be bought and sold. It is there in the rise of anxiety, depression, addiction, loneliness, a silent epidemic spreading from person to person, generation to generation. You realize that the chase for perfection is not just a personal failing, but a systemic problem, a feature, not a bug of the world you inhabit. It is the engine of consumerism, the fuel of capitalism, the logic of a society that values profit over people, appearance over substance, efficiency over meaning. It is the reason you are always hungry, always searching, always dissatisfied. It is the reason you feel so alone, even in a crowd, even in the age of constant connection. You begin to see the deeper consequences, the ones that are harder to name, harder to face. The way perfectionism stifles creativity, turning play into work, curiosity into anxiety, exploration into fear. The way it erodes resilience, making you brittle, unable to cope with setbacks, unable to learn from failure. The way it poisons intimacy, making it impossible to be truly seen, truly known, truly loved. You notice how perfectionism breeds cynicism, making it hard to trust, hard to hope, hard to believe in anything that cannot be measured or monetized. You see how it leads to self-sabotage, to procrastination, to paralysis. The fear of not being perfect becomes the fear of trying at all. You see how it creates a culture of blame, of scapegoating, of endless finger-pointing. If only you were better, if only you tried harder, if only you were perfect, everything would be okay. You feel the weight of these consequences pressing down on you, suffocating you, making it hard to breathe. You realize that the chase for perfection is not just a personal struggle, but a collective tragedy, a story that has been told for so long by so many that it has become invisible, unquestioned, inevitable. You begin to wonder, what would happen if you stopped believing this story? What would happen if you refused to play the game, refused to measure your worth by someone else's standards, refused to sacrifice your joy on the altar of an impossible ideal? Would the world fall apart, or would it finally begin to heal? You sense that the answer is not simple, not easy, not without risk. The world is not kind to those who refuse to conform, who refuse to compete, who refuse to chase the mirage of perfection. There will be consequences, loss, rejection, misunderstanding, even ridicule. But there will also be freedom, possibility, a chance to reclaim your life, your voice, your soul. You realize that the first step is to see the trap for what it is, to name it, to understand it, to feel its weight. Only then can you begin to imagine a different way of being, a way that honors your imperfection, your vulnerability, your humanity. You feel the tension building, the sense that something is about to break. You are standing at the edge of a precipice, looking down into the abyss. The old world is crumbling. The old stories are losing their power. You sense that a breakthrough is possible, that a new way of living is within reach, but only if you are willing to risk everything, to let go of the chase, to step into the unknown. You take a deep breath, feeling the fear, the excitement, the possibility. You know that the journey ahead will not be easy, that the forces arrayed against you are powerful, that the world will not easily let you go. But you also know that the cost of staying where you are is too high, that the price of perfection is your very soul. You are ready for rebellion. You are ready to break free. You stand at the edge of the precipice, the old world crumbling behind you, the abyss of uncertainty yawning before you. The air is electric with possibility and fear. For the first time, you sense that the chase for perfection is not a law of nature, not an unbreakable spell, but a story that can be rewritten, a script that can be torn up and thrown into the fire. The rebellion begins not with a shout, but with a whisper. What if I refuse? You feel the old voices rising in protest. They warn you of chaos, of failure, of exile from the tribe. They tell you that without the chase, you will become lazy, mediocre, invisible. They tell you that you will lose your edge, your purpose, your very self. But beneath their clamor, another voice stirs, a voice you have not heard in years, a voice that speaks of freedom, of joy, of a life lived on your own terms. You realize that rebellion does not mean destruction. It means creation. It means choosing, again and again, to step off the treadmill, to question the rules, to reclaim your right to be imperfect. It means learning to live in the space between what is and what could be, to find beauty in the cracks, to make peace with the mess. You remember the words of those who have walked this path before you, the artists who painted outside the lines, the philosophers who questioned the unquestionable, the rebels who refused to bow to the tyranny of should. You think of Vincent van Gogh, who painted his truth in wild, impossible colors, undeterred by rejection, by ridicule, by the world's refusal to understand. You think of Simone de Beauvoir, who dared to imagine a world where women were not defined by the standards of men, who insisted on the right to define herself. You think of the poets, the mystics, the dreamers, who have always known that perfection is a prison, and that freedom lies in embracing the unfinished, the unresolved, the incomplete. You begin to see that the first act of rebellion is to tell the truth to yourself and then to the world. The truth that you are tired, that you are afraid, that you are longing for something more. The truth that you are not perfect and never will be, and that this is not a tragedy but a liberation. The truth that your worth is not measured by your achievements, your appearance, your ability to meet someone else's standards. The truth that you are enough, right now, as you are. You feel the power of this truth pulsing through your veins, a quiet revolution that begins in the heart and radiates outward. You notice how your body responds, your shoulders relax, your breath deepens, your heart beats a little slower. You realize that you have been holding yourself in a vice, bracing for impact, waiting for the next blow. Now, for the first time, you allow yourself to soften, to open, to receive. You begin to experiment with imperfection. You let yourself make mistakes, and notice that the world does not end. You speak your mind, even when your voice trembles, and discover that honesty is more powerful than polish. You allow yourself to rest, to play, to waste time, and find that joy returns in unexpected ways. You stop editing your life for the approval of others, and begin to live for yourself. You notice how the world responds. Some people are threatened by your refusal to play the game. They try to pull you back, to shame you, to remind you of the rules, but others are drawn to your authenticity, your courage, your willingness to be real. You find new allies, new friends, new communities, people who are also tired of the chase, who are hungry for something deeper, something truer, something more alive. You realize that rebellion is contagious. Every time you choose imperfection, you give others permission to do the same. Every time you tell the truth, you crack the facade of perfection that keeps everyone trapped. Every time you refuse to measure your worth by someone else's standards, you create space for others to find their own. You begin to see that the rebellion is not just personal, but collective. It is a movement, a groundswell, a quiet revolution that is spreading through the cracks in the old world. You see it in the rise of vulnerability, in the celebration of diversity, in the growing refusal to accept shame as a way of life. You see it in the art, the music, the literature that dares to tell the messy, complicated, beautiful truth of what it means to be human. You realize that breaking free from perfectionism is not a one-time event, but a daily practice, a series of small, radical acts that add up to a new way of being. It means learning to sit with discomfort, to tolerate uncertainty, to embrace the unknown. It means forgiving yourself again and again for being human. It means choosing compassion over criticism, curiosity over judgment, connection over competition. You begin to develop new habits, new rituals, new ways of relating to yourself and the world. You practice self-compassion, speaking to yourself with the kindness you would offer a friend. You set boundaries, protecting your time, your energy, your soul from the demands of a perfectionist culture. You cultivate gratitude, noticing the beauty in the ordinary, the joy in the imperfect, the wonder in the unfinished. You learn to celebrate progress, not perfection. You honor your efforts, your growth, your resilience. Even when the outcome is uncertain, you allow yourself to be a beginner, to try new things, to fail and try again. You discover that the path to mastery is paved with mistakes, that the journey is more important than the destination, that the process is where the magic happens. You begin to redefine success on your own terms. Success is not the absence of failure, but the willingness to keep going. Success is not a perfect performance, but an honest effort. Success is not meeting someone else's standards, but living in alignment with your own values, your own truth, your own heart. You notice how your relationships change. You become more present, more open, more willing to be seen. You listen more deeply, love more freely, forgive more easily. You let go of the need to control, to fix, to rescue. You allow others to be imperfect, to make mistakes, to grow at their own pace. You discover that true intimacy is only possible when you are willing to be vulnerable, to show up as you are, to risk being known. You begin to see the world with new eyes. You notice the beauty in the broken, the wisdom in the wounded, the strength in the soft. You see that everyone is fighting their own battle, carrying their own burdens, longing for the same freedom you have found. You feel a surge of compassion, a sense of kinship, a recognition that you are not alone. You realize that the rebellion is not about escaping imperfection, but about embracing it. It is about finding meaning in the mess, purpose in the pain, joy in the journey. It is about living fully, loving deeply, risking everything for the sake of something real. You sense that you are part of something larger than yourself, a movement, a revolution, a new way of being. You feel the old world falling away, the old stories losing their power. You know that the journey is not over, that the struggle will continue, that the forces of perfectionism are strong and persistent. But you also know that you are stronger, that you are not alone, that you are free. You stand at the threshold of a new reality, the dawn breaking on a world that is messier, wilder, more beautiful than you ever imagined. You take a deep breath, feeling the fear, the excitement, the possibility. You know that the rebellion has only just begun, that the journey is far from over, that the ultimate truth is still waiting to be discovered. But for now, you are free. Free to be imperfect, free to be human, free to live, to love, to create, to fail, to begin again. And as you step into this new world, you carry with you a single burning question. A question that will guide you through the darkness, a question that will challenge you, unsettle you, transform you. What if the only way to be perfect is to stop trying to be perfect? What if the only way to be whole is to embrace your brokenness? What if the only way to be free is to let go of the chase and simply be? The answer, you sense, is waiting for you, just beyond the horizon, in the heart of the rebellion, in the depths of your own imperfect soul. Dawn breaks, and you find yourself standing in the quiet aftermath of rebellion. The world is the same, yet nothing is as it was. The old voices are quieter now, their power diminished, their threats exposed as empty echoes. You feel the rawness of your own existence, the vulnerability of having shed so many layers, the strange lightness that comes from no longer carrying the weight of impossible expectations. You are not perfect. You are not finished. You are not fixed. And for the first time, you sense that this is not a flaw, but a doorway. You walk through your day with new eyes. The cracks in the sidewalk, the chipped paint on the walls, the laughter that bubbles up in the middle of a mistake. These things no longer seem like evidence of failure, but like proof of life. You notice the way the sun catches the dust in the air, turning imperfection into gold. You see the way people stumble, apologize, forgive, begin again. You realize that the world is not a machine, but a living, breathing, ever-changing miracle. A symphony of flaws, a mosaic of broken pieces, a dance of becoming. You remember the philosophers, the poets, the mystics who have always known this truth. Rainer Maria Rilke, who wrote, "I want to unfold, I don't want to stay folded anywhere, because where I am folded, there I am a lie." You realize that perfection is a folding, a hiding, a refusal to be seen. It is a denial of your own complexity, your own contradictions, your own wild, unruly heart. To chase perfection is to chase a ghost, to live in exile from yourself, to trade the richness of reality for the safety of illusion. You begin to see that the ultimate truth is not about becoming perfect, but about becoming real. It is about standing in the light of your own existence, unafraid of the shadows, unashamed of the scars. It is about embracing the paradox at the heart of being human, that you are both broken and whole, both lost and found, both a masterpiece and a work in progress. You feel the old questions returning, but now they have a different flavor. What if the point of life is not to arrive, but to journey? What if the purpose is not to be flawless, but to be fully alive? What if the meaning you seek is not at the end of the road, but in every step you take, every breath you draw, every moment you dare to be yourself? You realize that the chase for perfection was always a distraction, a way of avoiding the messiness, the uncertainty, the vulnerability of real life. It was a way of numbing yourself to pain, but also to joy. It was a way of protecting yourself from rejection, but also from love. It was a way of controlling the uncontrollable, but at the cost of your own freedom, your own creativity, your own soul. You see now that the only way to be free is to let go, to surrender to the flow of life, to trust in your own resilience, to believe that you are enough even when you fall short. You realize that the cracks in your armor are not weaknesses, but openings, places where the light can enter, where connection can happen, where growth can begin. You remember Viktor Frankl, who taught that meaning is not something you find, but something you create. You realize that your life is not a problem to be solved, but a story to be lived, a story that is richer, deeper, more beautiful because of its imperfections. You see that every mistake, every failure, every heartbreak is a chapter in that story, a brushstroke in the painting, a note in the song. You begin to trust yourself, not because you are perfect, but because you are real. You learn to listen to your own voice, to honor your own needs, to follow your own path. You stop asking for permission to exist, to take up space, to be seen. You realize that you are not here to meet someone else's standards, but to discover your own truth, to create your own meaning, to live your own life. You notice how your relationships change. You are no longer afraid to be vulnerable, to show your flaws, to ask for help. You find that intimacy grows in the soil of imperfection, that love flourishes when you stop trying to earn it, that connection deepens when you dare to be seen. You realize that everyone is fighting their own battle, carrying their own burdens, longing for the same acceptance, the same freedom, the same grace. You see the world with new eyes. You notice the beauty in the ordinary, the wonder in the mundane, the sacredness in the everyday. You realize that life is not a competition, but a collaboration, a dance of souls, a tapestry of stories, a symphony of voices. You feel a sense of belonging, a sense of home, a sense of peace. You begin to forgive yourself for the years you spent chasing perfection, for the moments you hid your true self, for the times you hurt others in your quest to be enough. You realize that forgiveness is not a one-time event, but a practice, a way of returning again and again to the truth of your own humanity. You learn to hold yourself with compassion, to celebrate your progress, to honor your journey. You sense that the ultimate truth is not something you can grasp or own or master. It is something you live moment by moment, breath by breath, choice by choice. It is the courage to show up, to be seen, to risk failure, to love anyway. It is the wisdom to know that you are enough, even when you are unfinished, even when you are afraid, even when you are lost. You realize that the problem with chasing perfection was never about being flawed. It was about being afraid of rejection, of failure, of not being loved. But now you see that love is not a reward for perfection, but a gift for being real. You see that acceptance is not something you earn, but something you allow. You see that freedom is not the absence of flaws, but the presence of courage. You feel the world opening up before you, vast and wild and full of possibility. You know that there will be setbacks, disappointments, moments of doubt, but you also know that you are not alone, that you are part of a larger story, a greater whole, a deeper truth. You stand at the edge of this new reality, the sun rising on a world that is imperfect, unfinished, and utterly beautiful. You take a deep breath, feeling the weight of your own existence, the power of your own choices, the promise of your own becoming. You realize that the ultimate truth is not a destination, but a way of being, a way of living with open hands, open heart, open mind. It is the willingness to be seen, to be known, to be loved, exactly as you are. It is the courage to keep going, to keep growing, to keep believing in the possibility of transformation. You look back at the path you have traveled, the years of striving, the moments of despair, the flashes of insight, the acts of rebellion. You see that every step, every stumble, every detour was necessary, was meaningful, was part of the journey. You realize that you are not defined by your failures, or your successes, or your ability to meet someone else's standards. You are defined by your willingness to show up, to try, to risk, to love. You feel a sense of gratitude, a sense of awe, a sense of wonder. You realize that life is not about being perfect, but about being present. It is about showing up, again and again, with all your flaws, all your fears, all your hopes. It is about daring to be real, to be vulnerable, to be alive. You know that the journey is not over, that the struggle will continue, that the world will keep trying to pull you back into the chase. But you also know that you have found something stronger than perfection, something deeper, something truer, something that cannot be taken away. You have found yourself. And as you step into the light of this new day, you carry with you the ultimate truth, a truth that will guide you, sustain you, transform you. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to be real. You are here to be human. You are here to live. Let that be enough.